This live stream brought to you by the Excelsior Citizen and these generous sponsors. The Simmons Sales Team, your hometown realtors. Our Excelsior Springs Hospital, where better care is right in your backyard. Find out how you can advertise with Excelsior Springs' #1 community resource. Visit excelsiorcitizen.com today.
I want 15 minutes to be alone.
That's why it's online. You don't set it in that. That's where you got to screw that. You got to go back. So no one can tell.
But I said I'm not to exceed 15 minutes means that 14 minutes and 59 seconds is my line.
14:30 makes it harder. So you think it's not supposed to be easy.
Under.
That's what I want it to be. Just so you know.
I'm going to talk for 30 minutes.
So if it's over, you got to buy something.
Sorry if I'm rambling on, but Dr. Bullimore really wanted
He wants me to stop, so I'm going to keep on going.
He's a little confused about this. I really wanted to.
If it's over 14:30, you got to buy something. If it's under, I'll buy it. Heather, you're in. You like
Vanilla spray.
I mean, I'm going to be up plenty of time.
All right, we're going to start the meeting. This time I'd entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
First by Kaylin. Second by Darren. All those in favor? That passes 6-0. Note Troy is absent tonight, sailing the Caribbean. You'll join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. This time I'd entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda. First by Rick.
Second.
Second by Jill. All those in favor? And that passes 6-0. Next up, recognition, Dr. Bullimore.
If it pleases the board, we'd like to recognize Miss Alicia Dale for her dedication and hard work at our Rockin' Tiger Club as the Classified Employee of the Month. So we went and presented that to her last week, and she was very appreciative and wanted me to pass along a thank you to the board. She was nominated by Dr. Katie Andreessen, which said, Alicia worked very hard when Rockin' Tiger Club transitioned both leadership and locations this summer. She has taken over a lot of tasks and taken initiative in problem solving through situations. On top of all of this, she's an advocate for kids and works hard to meet their needs. Miss Alicia Dale.
Don't forget your shout out. Your sponsor.
Your sponsor.
The hospital, who proudly supports all the staff and students of Excelsior Springs.
All right, next up, Mr. Richie Marsh. Or is it Joe?
Thank you for your time. We're going to introduce some young ladies. Come on up, and their coach, Richie Marsh. Our girls tennis team, district champions this year, and we're going to take a few minutes to recognize those great accomplishments, and I'm going to let Richie talk about the team. Congratulations, ladies. Come on up, girls.
Thank you, Joe. So we had our first ever in the history of Excelsior Springs High School district champs on the girls tennis side. So quite a I actually didn't realize it. We won districts, and I knew the boys had won district before, but I figured like back in the 70s or the 80s they won districts, but they hadn't. So very awesome year. And then then individually, we also had some awards there. I'll talk about those from the district side. So when I call your name, just kind of step forward so everybody can see who you are. So Anna Selby, she was She won district. She was a in singles. She was a district champion. 4th place in singles, Lana Nunnenkamp. I guess I stepped back. Or keep I'll end up here. And then in doubles, right next to each other, Shelby Stodden and Malaya Tedesco. They took first in doubles. And then runner-up, 2nd place in doubles, Laura Mueller and Megan Regal. So. Okay.
Smile. Congratulations, guys.
Nice job.
Unless you want to give a seat.
Anybody want to talk? Congratulations.
Thank you,
You
guys.
too, Coach.
Nice job.
Thanks,
Nice
awesome.
job.
Can't believe they never won with Sue Jones as their coach.
And I played tennis.
I played tennis, we never won.
We never stripped.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
Where's Coach Marsh going? All right, next up is Dr. Miller.
Thank you. Wanted to share a video with you brought to you by our fabulous communications director, Dr. Bullimore. We've got an event that's kind of unique that we're doing we're calling it Holidays. And with Holidays, we wanted to really give back to teachers. So what we decided to do was to take a half day of our professional development time and offer them a way to be able to do some shopping in the community while supporting a lot of our community vendors by getting them together at the high school. So what's going to happen is we're going to have, the whole gym is going to be filled. It's a glitter-free production. Joe Grimes, glitter-free gymnasium. I know.
Hearing that.
Yeah.
I see it.
It is. So the entire upper deck's going to be filled, and then both sides of the gym, and then along the commons. In addition to that, we'll have 7 food trucks that will be there. Rather than going on about it, I'll just show you the video because they do a much better job of telling the story. You got it up, Albert?
Mrs. Claus and I would like to invite all ESSD employees and all Excelsior Springs community members to our 2022 Holidays Shopping Extravaganza. Wait a minute, Santa. What's holidays? Oh, I'm so glad you asked, Mr. Christmas Tree. Holidays is from 12 to 3 for ESSD employees, 3 to 6 for friends and family. We will have more than 55 vendors for all of your Christmas gift needs, as well as raffles for staff and performances from ESHS choir and band. Well, Santa, what if I get hungry? Mr. Grinch, I know how you like your food. We'll have 7, count it, 7 food trucks for all of your hunger needs. So don't miss out. Join me and my friends, Mr. Grinch and Mr. Christmas Tree, for our Holidays Shopping Extravaganza on November 22nd.
Nice. It's a fine production. So what we did was we charged each vendor, it's a $25 entry fee in order to participate in this. And we're taking that $25 and pooling it into gift baskets and prizes that will go directly back to teachers. So just something special that we wanted to do for our staff during the holidays. So everyone's invited to, you're welcome to go. It's from noon to 3, it's staff only, and then from 3 to 6, it's open to the public, so anyone can attend. So it's private till 3, and then after that, it's open.
Cool. Come on up. Any questions? All right, moving on. MSBA delegate report. Darren.
Should have the video.
Welcome to the November edition of the Missouri School Boards Association's Board Report. We begin with a look at efforts to combat the teacher shortage issue in Missouri. In October, the Teacher Recruitment and Retention Blue Ribbon Commission submitted its report to the Missouri State Board of Education. The commission made 9 recommendations for lawmakers to address the educator shortage. The State Board of Education approved the commission's 9 recommendations and pledged to bring the findings to the public and lawmakers. Missouri's teacher shortage is most urgent at the elementary school level, with 1,561 vacancies last year. There were an additional 852 openings for special education teachers, according to the Education Department. Former MSBA president and Blue Springs School District Board President Rhonda Gilstrap was a member of the Blue Ribbon Commission. She explains the process for the recommendations.
The process included many facets. First and foremost, members needed to be educated on the landscape of public education and the current state of the Missouri teacher workforce. We collected data from other neighboring states to see a regional comparison, which included average starting teacher salary, the education wage gap, as well as benefit packages for teachers, for all educators. We also researched the retention rate of new teachers.
The commission has prioritized its recommendations into 3 time frames.
We developed a set of recommendations that were categorized by immediate, short-term priorities, and then long-term priorities. And I think that coming from the commission, the number 1 priority under immediate was to increase the starting teacher salary in state statute and continue funding to support the new teacher baseline salary grant program. Short-term priorities included establishing a fund to support LEAs, which are local education agencies, and providing increased salaries, and then increased support for mental health resources for teachers, school leaders, and staff. And then under long-term priorities, a couple that were included were salary supplements for filling high-need positions, and then as well as offering salary supplements for teachers with national board certification.
Although the recommendations have been submitted, Gilstrap said the work is far from done.
Our boards of education in Missouri are diligently working to find solutions, and we will continue to do so as we strive to strengthen that workforce. Now, our work is not done as far as the commission. The next thing we really need to look at, and I know there's not a school district in the state of Missouri that hasn't come across this, but another committee is formed to look at the culture and climate.
The State Board of Education, in conjunction with the Blue Ribbon Commission, is hosting a series of public engagement meetings in each of Missouri's 8 congressional districts. Check the DESE website for the recommendations made to the State Board, as well as the dates and locations for the public engagement meetings. It won't be long until the Missouri General Assembly convenes for its 2023 regular session in January. Education issues are likely to be the subject of considerable discussion, as is the case most years in the Missouri legislature. MSBA's Director of Governmental Relations, Brant Shields, expects certain issues to come up immediately in the session.
Nothing is really new in education in the policy that the legislature looks at every year. In fact, issues that probably came up, especially that were hot topic issues that didn't pass in the last legislative session, or even the legislative session the year before that, are probably going to come back again. You know, expect to see things talking about charter schools, talking about virtual schools, talking about expansion of vouchers. Those are probably going to be big hot topic issues coming into session this year.
Between now and the start of the session, there are things that board members can do.
You know, board members right now, especially with those legislators who are just newly elected in this November election, get the chance to know those legislators. You don't want your first opportunity talking to them being when it's time for them to take a vote in January, February, or March. Start building that relationship now. Bring them into your schools. Have them know what great things are happening in your districts, because that's going to help you tell your story when it's time to make a difference in the legislative session.
The MSBA Action Center has a new look, but will host the same helpful resources to assist you in being an effective advocate for your public schools and the students you serve. This includes legislative summaries, tracking of committee hearings when the legislature is in session, and calls to action on critical issues. That's it for this month's edition of the MSBA Board Report. Thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and thank you for all that you do to ensure all students succeed.
Without his voice.
Anything further, Darren?
No, besides, I think the majority of you all went to the MSBA conference the prior week, so I think it went off without a hitch.
All right. Lisa, any visitors? No visitors, so we'll move on to the superintendent's report, Dr. Tomlinson.
Wanted to go over a couple things tonight to kind of bring some awareness as to what our financial status is at this point in the school year. So if you take a look at the first slide here, look at our starting balances over the last couple of years versus our starting balance this year. You notice that we're starting about $3 million behind where we did the previous year. And if you take a look at the graph over there, you can see a steady decline of where we've started. That coincides almost directly with the 6% raise we gave to staff each of the last 2 years. So you could kind of expect a little bit less to begin the year with. What we really want to do is if you take a look at that slope as it goes down, see as it goes August to December, and you can kind of see our reserves and our cash kind of go out. That's payroll, right? Every month we make payroll, and you're going to see that decline. We don't really have any revenues coming in until January. When you see that large spike in January, that's actually when we get all of our tax dollars submitted from the county. So that's going to be the largest part of the year where we actually get revenues coming in. And then you'll start seeing it to go down again because payroll continues. But we also continue to get other money from federal programs, different SPED income sources. So it kind of levels off a little bit. And then towards the summer, again, it gets back to around where your starting point is going to be. So it's very cyclical in nature when it comes to our finances. I think the concern is when we're starting this much lower with our goals for what our reserve balances are. One of the things we want to do is see that slope kind of flatten out a little bit as we go between now and January, so that we're not in the same spot in January relative to where we are today. So we're going to try to pull back a little bit on some of our expenditures and try to soften that curve a little bit. And then really we're not going to know how we're doing until we see what our revenues are in January, and that really should set the tone for the rest of the year. So I don't know if anybody had any questions about that, or if that's kind of a helpful kind of snapshot of how things work and where we're at relative. Okay? No questions? Then go to the next slide here. We talked a little bit about the Career Center grants. I wanted to give an update on this. So we've been working behind the scenes with both an architect and a athletic complex, I guess, designer / vendor, and trying to come up with different ideas so we can get some rough ideas on budget for this new activity complex that would coincide with the Career Center additions of adding physical therapy and law enforcement programs at the Career Center. So if you take a look there, you can kind of see the overview shot in that first picture. Those 2 classrooms are what the current weight room is now. We would actually convert that over into 2 classrooms. I think the idea is to actually take away those center rooms and move those to the top there, and they'll actually become storage. And then you see this new addition is the elongated yellow area, and that would be the actual new athletic performance complex. So there's also a training room off to the right, up at the top, right off of that as well. And that would all tie into the existing high school, but it would be a part of the Career Center. So it was a better way to expand than to add on to the actual Career Center building, just because your fire program and a lot of different apparatus out there that made it difficult. Plus it's kind of sandwiched right up against the baseball field. So that would be the plan. Here's an example, just a rendering of the outside. You kind of get an idea for what that would look like from the parking lot. That's the parking lot in between the high school and the football field, kind of right up against where the Career Center would be to the right if you turned right from there. That's an example, and there's kind of a layout of one of the options that could be. We were looking at a couple different options and working with Joe Grime, our athletic director, as well as some of our coaches to figure out exactly how it's going to look. But roughly we're going to get 15 or 16 rack stations in there, as well as some running space, probably some plyometric areas, and also some rehabilitation equipment for our physical therapy program. So as you can see there, we're looking to spend about $1.1 million both this year and next year. And in return, we'll get about $950,000 of free grant money to reimburse us for that. So we're almost getting the facility at half price, if you think of it that way. Mr. Ruby did a great job in securing the grant money for that. And then he's going to be here next month to talk about getting approval to move forward with this. But I wanted to keep it fresh in your mind, so as we talk about it more, you kind of understand what it's going to mean for our students. Any questions about that?
Compared to what we have now, is that considerably bigger?
It is. So currently we're under 5,000 square feet, and this would be about 7,500 square feet. Does that sound right?
It's almost double.
Yeah, it's about double.
That's what we need.
So, and the more important thing is, when's the last time we really put a significant investment into that area? 20 years ago? Mm-hmm. So it hasn't been touched in 20 years. It's time. The other big, when you think about where we're at, we just joined the Suburban Conference. So it's a different level of competition now when you're talking about Kearney, Smithville, Platte County. They're investing tens of millions of dollars into that. We're going to be able to get something comparable, we think, for maybe $2 million. So I think our bang for the buck is really good, especially when we're getting half of it paid for through a grant.
I had a quick question too, and I know this is for the Career Center too, so we're going to have probably increased enrollment, which is awesome. And we talked about how we consulted with like some of the coaches and that type of thing for the facility. have we reached out to anybody like in the PT field to get their input so we make sure that we start off on the right foot with equipment that we need and things like that?
Absolutely. So we actually have our own trainer currently, and that's someone that we also consult with as far as what type of equipment are we going to have, how are we going to situate that. And that's something we also, Joe Grimes been really good about being the lead on that, to making sure that we're getting everything put together in a way that's going to accommodate not just one sport or one program or one career center program, but everyone in our high school and our community is going to benefit from this.
Awesome.
Any other questions? Next up, this is kind of exciting, so I want to talk about Proposition Lewis. So as you know, you were directed us to move forward with the opportunity to replace Lewis Elementary in our long-range facility plan. It's our next step of our phase, was to try to improve upon Lewis. And I have some renderings here for you to see of what that could look like. And the proposal would be to actually rebuild Lewis on its current site. And so that would mean moving all of those students for a year to a year and a half. So I don't know that we can expect it to go at the same pace that Cornerstone did, because they were on their own location that was easy to build from. We're going to have to tear something down and rebuild it. It might take a little bit longer. But if you take a look there, we're asking taxpayers if they will allow us to move 70 cents from Fund 3 to Fund 1. So it's actually going to say, shall the Excelsior Springs School District raise Fund 1 taxes 70 cents? But then it will follow up and say, and also lower 70 cents in Fund 3 for a zero impact to taxpayers. So taxpayers wouldn't be asked to pay any more money. It would just allow us to essentially move money from our savings account to our checking account so that we can actually pay the bill. And that's all it is we're asking, and that would go up for a vote in April. We'll talk about that a little bit more here in a minute, but that gives you a nice idea. There's from Job Corps Hill, a nice shot there of what that could look like, and it really would be an impressive site coming down the hill, and it would kind of transform what downtown would look like. So, on the next slide, talked a little bit about this. So I really want to hit this hard because it's probably the most important thing, is people are going to want to know, how does this impact my taxes? What am I going to have to pay? What does this cost us? All we would do is propose to move 70 cents out of Fund 3 over to Fund 1. That's what we would do. So your Fund 3 would go from $1.31, right, down to 61. And Fund 1 would go from $3.90 up to $4.60. Your total taxes, identical. It just allows us to use that money to lease purchase Lewis Elementary School. We're guessing it would be around $33 million. If you remember, 2 years ago, it cost $19 million to build Cornerstone. That's the difference in prices from 2 years ago to today. That's just our reality we live in. That's why it's not going to get any better if we wait either. If we wait a couple years, it's just the prices are just continuing to go up. So that kind of gives you an idea about what it would take to build a new Lewis. And then we would hope to be able to, if that passes in April, if the voters want to move forward with this, then we would begin that process immediately. Try to move as much of our stuff out of Lewis as we possibly can. Tear that building down and start building a brand new elementary. Hopefully last them. If this one can last 70 years like the current Lewis did, it'd be money well spent, I think. Take a look at the next picture here. Here's some renderings. When I get these from the architects, I love sharing these things because this brings kind of a visualization to it. It's going to have a lot of similar design to Cornerstone, but you are going to have some different design elements that are going to make it unique. So they're going to have different color schemes. If you remember, if you've been in Cornerstone, there's a lot of hexagons around. Over in Lewis, it's going to be more of a sun kind of theme. So you'll have a lot of circles, a lot of partial circles, so you'll get that kind of moon and sun component. There's some graphics there that talk about different science facts that deal with the lunar cycle or with the sun. We've also talked about doing some kind of neat things, and I don't want to ruin the surprise, but there's a lot of thought going into how do we remember the old Lewis in the process of moving forward. So we're going to try to do some things that also how long Lewis has been there and what it means. So a lot of work's gone into that, but I think it looks pretty amazing. Questions about the interior? Okay. That's all I had, sir.
All right. Next up, annual MSBA conference review.
Well, MSBA conference was last week, and I'm gonna probably, is it okay if I tag team this with you and get your input and feedback on some things?
Sure.
So, Troy Snelling and Jill Everett accompanied me on a couple of the sessions that we went to. The first one we went to was called the MSBA Governance Award. And we kind of talked a little bit about what are some of the things that different boards are doing across the state of Missouri to be recognized for furthering education and really putting their best foot forward for kids. And so I don't know what you had some takeaways, maybe of some things you thought about, maybe benefits of that, what some of there's a little bit of work that goes into it.
There's a lot of work that goes into it, but I think it would be worthwhile. And one of the things that it made me think about is we hold our teachers and our students to such high standards and expectations. We should do the same as a board and make sure that we're growing too. So I'd like to see us come together and work on that and strive to get that governance award. And what that would mean is we'd really look at some of the major issues with education, learn more about that, support, more connection with the community. I would like to see us be able to do that. So it'll have to take all of us though.
It will. It takes everyone, and some of the key components is we have to participate in legislative lobbying for education issues. We also have to attend various leadership and growth opportunity processes that are allowed and provided by throughout the state. So it would just take an active board to.
I'm not afraid to go to Jeff City and talk with whoever. I've always felt like the worst thing that anybody can tell you is no. And if they say no, then I've got to go back and do a little bit more work.
You're just asking the wrong person.
Right. And then we also went to letters training, so we would know more about that.
What is letters training for people who don't know?
Well, it's a new initiative along with Science of Reading. It has a huge focus on phonemic awareness, K through 5th grade actually. But what we gleaned from it was that we have a lot of things going on in the district that support that. We already know our teachers are getting or receiving letters training, so that's awesome. But I know a few years ago we purchased Horizons Phonics, and I think that's a great resource to help support that. So
I think that's the important thing is there's a lot of studies that have been going on about how do children learn to read. And really there's nothing more important when you're going through elementary school is learning how to read effectively. And if we can stay with the times and train our teachers in the latest and greatest ways to help children learn to read better, I think what I took away from it most was it's not just your high performing readers, but it was all levels of readers benefited from this specific strategy. And so I think that was very encouraging for us.
yes, reaches all levels of learners. And then the day before I had an all-day training because I'm a new board member, so I was able to take advantage of that, and I think I've completed all my training so far.
Also, there was some safety. Rick, do you want to talk a little bit about some of the safety components that were provided for down there at the conference?
Yeah, there's a lot of new safety programs coming out. There's programs with connection with all the classrooms and everything. I think we're already up to date on a lot of securing our classrooms and everything. If there's an incident or lockdown and everything, which I think we do extremely well after hearing some of the components of other districts and what they go through.
Do you know if anyone else was able to attend that safety with you?
Yeah, Jeff Kimsey, our safety director, went, and we picked up a lot of information and everything we're going to look at and see where we need to improve.
Awesome, thanks for doing that.
Excellent. All right, anybody got any more comments on those? All right, moving on to discussion and action items. First up is Miss Casey Ambrose. Like, where did she go?
Good evening, and thank you for having us here with you this evening. My name is Casey Ambrose, and I am the building principal at Lewis Elementary. And with me, I have Dr. Jill Comstock, who is the current assistant principal of the building, but next year will be taking on the role of lead principal for the 2023-24 school year. And she is super excited for that next chapter. So I am going to pass it on to her to introduce our student council.
So we have with us today 3 of our student council members, and they're excited to share with you about some of the service projects they've been doing and are going to do. So I'm going to pass it to Champion so he can introduce them.
Hi, my name is Champion. I'd like to introduce Titus and Emily. Titus is in 4th grade and Emily's in 5th grade. They are going to tell you about some of the important things our student council does for our school and community.
We're at Lewis. We are collecting Pop Tarts for the Ronald McDonald houses to help people have a place to stay when their child is sick.
Hi, my name is Emmy Sangs, and one of the things our student council does is help charities like the Good Samaritan Center located downtown Excelsior, and we collect hygiene items and canned goods for them. We like to try to make it fun for our kids at school so that way they'll want to participate. The class or the grade that brings the most wins an extra recess. In the future, we hope to ring the bells for the Salvation Army.
Awesome job. Thanks, guys. We also have a handout for you that they're going to pass out. Thank you so much. All right. We are here this evening to share with you a snapshot of where we are performing as a building, along with the steps we are taking to improve our student achievement scores. What you will see in this presentation is that our attendance and achievement scores are not where we want them to be. We recognize this and are working diligently with teachers to improve our instruction and focus on growth. Our job as educators is to create and maintain a culture of kindness and academic success. We are working together to establish an environment where all students feel welcome, excited, and challenged to reach their full potential. Enrollment and attendance data. Our first step in improving our achievement scores is to increase our attendance and educate our families of the importance of student attendance. If students aren't attending regularly, they aren't learning. I will say our attendance in October did drop significantly due to an increase in illness. We were all hit pretty hard in our building, both staff and students. Kindergarten, as you can see here, the attendance in kindergarten is always a struggle at Lewis. We definitely need to do a better job instilling the importance of attending school at the very start with families to work to change the mindset that it's just kindergarten. Kindergarten is the foundation for the rest of their educational experience. ELA data. Here you are seeing our developmental reading assessment scores. The DRA data shows the percent of students currently reading at end of year expectation. So while these numbers look very low, this is also representing the percentage of students who are already at the end of year expectation. There is no data for formative assessments for October, but we will have November's data once teachers have completed their formative assessments. Be sure to look for that data in our December report. We've not had district-wide formative assessments in the past, but have begun the process of creating these assessments this year. Our second quarter common formative assessments were created in first quarter by our teachers. Teachers will be working on third quarter assessments during our November professional development days next week. Be on the lookout for that data on our December board report as well. As you can see here, we do not have any data to represent kindergarten DRA progress. Students in kindergarten do not take the DRA until January. ELA action steps. Each month we meet regularly with our grade level teams along with an instructional coach to use data to make instructional decisions. Every Thursday we focus on a different subject, so reading is one week, writing another, and so on. At these sessions with teachers, we focus on ELA curriculum implementation and evaluating the curriculum to make necessary changes and adjustments. Another step in improving student achievement is ensuring students are cognitively engaged in the learning process and not simply being compliant in class. So we are focusing on evaluating the level of student and teacher engagement and how to support teachers in this area. We will also be looking closely at our MAP scores. The MAP is the Missouri Assessment Program, which is designed to measure how well students acquire the skills and knowledge described in the Missouri Learning Standards. We will be doing this at our Professional Development Day next week. We will be identifying areas to target our instruction by looking at areas where our Lewis students scored low and the state scored high. Math data. What you're seeing here is the percentage of students who are performing at grade level on the fall HMH growth assessment. As you can see, our percentages are not great. We recognize this and are working to ensure fidelity within our new math program. With any new program, there is always an implementation dip, and we feel like we are seeing that this year as we are in our second year of Into Math. We are looking forward to seeing our student growth in January. Again, we have not had district-wide common formative assessments, but those are in progress, and we look forward to sharing that data with you in the very near future. Math action steps. To help increase student achievement in the area of math, we meet once a month with our grade level teams along with instructional coaches as well to use math data to make instructional decisions. We are focusing on the new math curriculum and fidelity of program implementation. Again, cognitive engagement of students and teachers plays an important role in whether students are understanding the skills taught in math. So we are focusing on engagement in all academic areas of the day. We are also analyzing our math MAP data at our November PD, identifying areas where students scored low and the state scored high. Collaborative climate and culture. Our building leadership team is focusing on building wide goals to grow students in written response and word problems. Our Tiger Connections team is looking at building wide behavior data, determining how we are going to celebrate positive behaviors in the building. And grade level teams are using science standards to align their instruction and make needs-based decisions. Our goal is to tie data to what's working, what isn't, and how can we support all students, not just low students, but high achieving students as well. How can we push them forward? We are excited to be implementing Tiger Walks this year. This is an opportunity for teachers to observe in other teachers' classrooms with our instructional coach to learn and grow as educators. We must learn to trust one another and support each other for these to be effective. It's important to nurture those relationships in order to challenge one another and grow in our craft. This will be a key component to academic and behavioral improvements here at Lewis. Here is a list of upcoming events at Lewis. We hope that you can make it out to see one of our fantastic music performances put on by Mrs. Athena Gillespie. They're always fun to watch. Those are held at the PAC. And thank you for your time this evening. We hope you have a wonderful holiday season.
Thank you. All right. Next up, do you want to introduce Rick?
Yes, we were lucky enough to have Rick Nobles. If Rick, if you could come forward, and he's with Excellence K-12, and we recently completed a number of surveys within our community to try to get a gauge for how our community feels about the school district, how we're doing, what we're doing well, what we could do better. And I don't want to steal any of Rick's thunder because he can kind of tell us what all the results mean and what the process was for how they came to these results. Thanks for coming today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. As you know, we just completed a 300 complete telephone survey in the district. We talked to registered voters only. 300 randomly selected random digit dial matched to match your population pattern. When you do that, it gives you a 5.6 2.5% margin of error. So pretty spot on. We know from our experience that three things need to be in place in order to pass a bond issue of any type. First of all, patrons have to think you're doing a good job with the money they've already given you. Second of all, they have to like whatever the idea is that you put forward. And third, they have to tolerate the tax impact of that idea. So we wanted to cover those three things, as well as a number of questions related to how the district is doing overall. So I'll be covering that fairly quickly, and stop me if you have any questions. We start with grading the district's performance. That's how we gauge whether or not people are happy with the job that you're doing. We ask them to give us a grade on a number of things, quality of facilities, quality of education, those types of things. Quality of school facility, and then we convert that to a 5-point scale. So A is a 5, B is a 4, etc. Quality of school facilities, 4.59, which is the highest I've seen in 2 years. Quality of education, 4.27, etc. Value for the tax dollar spent, 4.03, is the highest score I've seen in 15 years. So people think that you are doing an amazing job of getting bang for the buck. So that's really good. We then do an open-ended, two open-ended questions which ask people about the strengths of the district and areas for improvement. Good academics and education was the #1 strength. Community support and involvement was the #2 strength. Those are always good to see. In terms of areas needing improvement, #1 was don't know. That's the only place on a survey you want to see don't know. That's a good thing because there's no specific concerns that come to top of mind in the district, so that's a great thing. We then did a series of what we call statement exercises, and what we do is we make a statement. It's important to keep our school buildings up to date, would be a statement. And then we ask people whether they agree or disagree with that statement. We'll read you these along with the numbers that you got, and I'll tell you in advance, I thought our calling company was pulling a joke on me with these numbers. I've never seen numbers like this. It's important to keep our school buildings up to date and in good condition to protect our community's investment in those facilities. 100% strongly agree. Investing in school improvements now will benefit many future generations of students and homeowners. 99% strongly agree. The quality of the Excelsior Springs School District provides a strong foundation for property values in our area. 97% agree. I'm proud of the condition of our schools. It's time for us to continue supporting efforts of keeping them up to date and in good working order. 87%. I'm willing to support building improvements to make sure the quality of education in the Excelsior Springs School District is equal to or better than that of neighboring districts. 87%. I have to tell you, there are communities in Missouri where I could say the grass is green and not get those numbers. Okay, it's really exceptional. You should really be proud of what your patrons think of you and the job that you're doing. Two more statements that didn't rate kind of as high. I need more information. Only 77% said that, so that's a good thing. And then the last, the district does a good job of listening and responding to community opinions. Was at 61%. It's why it's good to do surveys like this, because it's an opportunity for people to give you their feedback and feel like you're listening to them, so that's always a good thing. We then talked about facility planning, and we asked people to rank the importance of these things. Energy efficient upgrades and replacement of aging equipment like heating and cooling systems. 99% said that was important. Keeping classroom instructional technologies up to date, 99%. Updating playgrounds for safety and durability, 98%. Repaving sidewalks and parking lot areas, 97%, which is amazing. I mean, really, parking lot areas, that's usually not a bell ringer. Then we asked the key question, support for a tax levy increase, and as you heard earlier, we kind of tried to structure that to say we're going to add 70 cents here, but we're going to turn around and take away 70 cents there. This would create a no tax increase levy. More than 3/4 of the population, 80%, said they would either strongly favor or favor that. With this in mind, with 5.6% in mind, you're somewhere between 74 to 86%. So if you can get to the polls next week, I would do that. Communication from the district is kind of the last section we ask about. And we ask the question, other than friends and neighbors, because we know that's the number one source of information, other than friends and neighbors, where do you get your information about the district? 17% said websites, 16% said social media, and 14% said the newsletter. That's the only area of the survey that is not perfect for you, if you will. Would love to see the newsletter up in the 40% range. It's typical at other school districts. So you might think about turning up the dial on that in your communications plan. Final analysis, wow, is the only word I can think of. Kudos to you, did a great job. You should not hesitate in putting your no tax increase levy issue and rebuilding Lewis. Can I answer any questions?
Can you talk a little bit about, you said that these are good numbers for what you see. How many school districts do you represent? How many of these surveys do you do in a given year? Kind of just give us some rough numbers so we can kind of put it in perspective.
We do about 15 of these a year. I've worked with 180 school districts, 69 in Missouri. We're headquartered in Kansas City, so we mainly do Kansas and Missouri. So we do an awful lot of these, and our client base includes some of the wealthiest school districts in the Midwest. Go over to St. Louis with Clayton and Ladue and Columbia and Lee Summit and Springfield. And so we have worked with all of those, along with a lot of smaller school districts. And I think just about everybody in the Kansas City area. So we're seeing a wide spectrum of grades. And I was blown away by your scores. It's terrific.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it, Rick.
Thank you.
All right, next up is Proposition Lewis, approval of resolution. Dr. Tomlin. Lewis.
So this is, if you take a look at this is the Proposition Lewis. We named it this. Right. Oftentimes when you run anything that goes to the voters, you want to touch on all the different buildings, give all the different parents a little something, you sprinkle things out for people. This time around, this is really specifically to replace Lewis Elementary, and we didn't want that to get lost on people. Everything we've said about why we did Cornerstone first, why Lewis could hold on for a couple years, it's time to do it. We made a commitment to do it. This is what it would take for us to put this on the ballot. So what we would need is we would need the board to approve the wording of this proposition so that we can move forward and get this on the ballot in April and hopefully be able to break ground as soon as possible.
Under Proposition Lewis, can we put, please read the entirety?
Well,
not just the increase.
It's a good point because it starts right off, says, can we increase 70 cents? And people say, what, you're increasing my taxes?
Can we flip the paragraphs? Can we decrease?
Unfortunately, there's rules and laws about how we can put things on the ballot. And so we've run that through, and I promise you we've asked the question, and this is the best language we can come up with and still accurately reflect. Because we also wanted to, if it were challenged in a court of law, would it be upheld? This is what it takes to uphold it. The key is going to be communication with our community to say that yes, we are raising Fund 1 70 cents, and we're going to lower Fund 3 by 70 cents, thereby keeping the exact same tax rate as you. So whether they pass it or not, they're going to pay the same taxes either way.
Right.
So you might as well just pass it and get a brand new building.
We can't say that though.
Well, I just did.
Well, they heard you hear that, guys? For the ballot.
Can't say it on the ballot, but we sure can say it. You're going to pay the same taxes either way.
We can say it, but we can't put it in writing.
Yes, we can't put it in the actual ballot, but that's just how it works. But that's why it's important for us to get out there and communicate with people that this is the best mechanism we have to keep taxes exactly the same and still get a brand new $33 million state-of-the-art elementary school for Lewis Elementary.
And that's what they have to understand. Literally.
Literally.
Literally, that's what they have to
This, I honestly believe this is what people want. So if they know that their taxes aren't going up and we have the current money to be able to afford to do this, we just have to move it from our savings account to our checking account. I think people would understand that.
So you just need a motion then?
All right, we have a first by Rick,
Second.
second by Kalen. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor? That passes 6-0. Thank you, guys. Next up, academic services update, Dr. Miller.
I'm so excited.
Oh, she's even going to the podium.
Okay, if it pleases the board, I'm excited to bring you an academic update. So I wanted to start out by showing the 3-year plan that I had in place. If you take a look at this, literally this is what I brought to, my interview when I interviewed for the position. So it's my 3-year plan, and I'm sticking to this plan because I believe it's what our kids need and what our teachers need. Wanted to kind of revisit about where we went from last year. When I came in here, I asked for assessments, and there weren't any. When I came here, I asked for the curriculum, and it was spotty at best in places. So my promise was to start talking about formative strategies in the classroom, and those are things basically for checking understanding with kids if they're on track and ready to move on with the lesson. And I promised you a complete and written curriculum, and we finished that in 1 year. So thanks to the teachers and the instructional coaches and the principals for doing that. So year 2, what we are charged with is, and if you look at the plan, we're not giving up on formative strategies, we're adding to it. In addition to formative strategies, we're currently creating aligned assessments that are common so that we can track data and then go back and inform our curriculum and our instruction and make adjustments. Oftentimes, like when I interviewed, I didn't have letters training in there, but as Desi is so good at, sometimes they make you do a pivot in this job, and so including letters training for teachers K-3. We have some grant funds available, and our teachers are utilizing our PDC to get everyone trained. I'm super passionate about that, and I think it's really going to make a big difference for basically everyone in our district. Learning to read is such a foundation, so I'm excited about that. Right now we have teachers and principals that are working on data teaming. I'm passionate about creating instructional leaders out of administrators, out of our principals. Kind of pulled the instructional coaches back from being the leader in the building, and now we have administrators working in grade level collaborative meetings. They're providing the PD. They're actually in front of teachers all the time, actually providing a lot of that instruction and professional development. I'm super proud of the job that they've done. So hopefully by the end of the year, I'll be able to present to you that we are done with the majority of our common formative assessments, and then we'll be ready for year 3. So I wanted to show you some data, and this is a lot of lines on a chart, so I'll break this down a little bit for you. I think it's important to give you a comparison over, I picked some schools that are like us in size and demographics. I wanted to give you kind of some ideas about where other people perform and where we're at as a district. So data doesn't really come out in the form of, they call it a district grade card, and that doesn't come out until late. So I don't have this year's district report cards, but this is last year's. So whenever you're looking at Excelsior Springs data, this is from 21, but I wanted to give you a comparison of what happened in 2021. So if you look at the yellow line, that's Excelsior Springs. The black line is state average, and then you can see a variety of other schools on there. This is for ELA. It's pretty typical that you take a little bit of a turn down when kids hit middle school because, well, honestly, puberty, and it's a rough transition sometimes. So if you look, it's not uncommon to take that. I'm super proud of our English 2 teachers. At the high school level, we have co-curricular, co-taught classes. Social studies and English is actually combined for freshmen and sophomores. That's something that is unique that came out of that Kaufman grant that we got a few years ago, and it's been in place because it's working. So if you look at the data, it's super effective, and they're doing a great job. We have some of the strongest ELA high school teachers around. They do an outstanding job. So the next slide is actually where we were and where we are now. Again, the black line is state average. That yellow line is last year, or excuse me, 21, and then spring of 22. You can see is that I tried to make it gold dark, or gold, like a darker gold. It just turned out brown, so sorry about that. On this, again, when you look at ELA, I always try to remind people and we talk about it at cabinet sometimes, I don't think people realize how close we were to shutting down last year with all of the illness and all of the things. So it was a post-COVID world, but we still really were participating in COVID. That being said, it's really no excuse for any part of these scores. I can tell you without question, I'm in classrooms all the time, I'm working with administrators all the time, and I am here to tell you that we are better than this, and we will continue to get better at this. So math comparison, when I came on, we had just adopted a K-5 math program and a 6-8 math program. So when I got here, these are the scores that kind of were handed my way. The one that stands out without question, I don't know that Algebra 1, I actually put off presenting you with the data and was on the phone with Desi because I thought that our state data was wrong. The number was so low. Dr. Everett's been having really good conversations working with our math department. I can tell you that I'm in their classrooms and we have some of the strongest math teachers around. They are excellent teachers, and I believe they're teaching the wrong things at the wrong time. They were taking maybe 3 to 4 months to just get them to the first lesson of algebra because they were coming that far behind. I do want to point out that these Algebra 1 scores are never on the shoulders of our Algebra 1 teachers. Algebra starts roughly in 4th grade, so it's our responsibility to get them ready for Algebra 1 starting in 4th grade. That 8th grade dip that you see with everyone on that last slide is really common because that's really where you start to differentiate advanced kids. They get pulled out in 8th grade and take the Algebra 1 class, or the Algebra 1 class in 8th grade. So their scores count towards Algebra 1, so you'll always see that dip in 8th grade. That's why you see it like among everyone there. So that brings us to this year. Again, the black line is state data. Yellow line was 21. Brown line was last spring. Incredibly proud of the work that they did in Algebra 1. They exceeded state standards. They put in just some basic changes in how they were teaching things. Overall, I can sum it up in saying that the math that we have is more difficult than the math we've ever taught before. I think it's uncomfortable for a lot of teachers to put their students in a situation where they're not automatically successful. So getting teachers to understand that getting a kid to try and to struggle is part of the learning process, and showing them through this kind of data that not only should our kids be doing things that are hard, but they can do things that are hard if you give them the opportunity. So we'll continue to push them there. So next slide is a breakdown per elementary building. I just like to show you you can walk in 3 different elementary buildings, and I had no idea about this in my secondary world, which is just one building. They have 3 completely different personalities. They're all great, but you can walk in each building and they are absolutely completely different. So wanted to give you a little bit of a breakdown. Elkhorn seems to always be, the favorite child out there. They have small classroom sizes. They do a really good job, but everybody overall is also doing a good job. So I would say that our most veteran teachers are at Elkhorn, and so you can tell by looking at this that it really, really does show. Overall, the growth from this year compared to last year is strong. So whenever we wrote our CSIP, we committed to raising MAP scores 2 to 3 points, meaning 2 to 3% a year. And I think that we've already exceeded that number based on this. 4th and 5th grade, I'll be honest with you, I do have some concerns. We're taking on we didn't have a curriculum when we did this. I mean, I still had teachers that were going to Teachers Pay Teachers. They were still collaborating and trying to do the best job they had without a curriculum, without being told what to teach. So I'm excited for this year. I'm already getting great feedback from teachers that they have a lot of clarity in what they're doing. Again, I don't think that it's the teachers. We have outstanding staff and outstanding teachers and outstanding administrators. I just think that we needed a little bit more focus, and so I'm excited to see what they can do for next year. With math, Again, we implemented a new math program. You can expect a dip. What I saw in 5th grade was basically a nosedive. That's really concerning. I've got, honestly, some big concerns with some of our buildings in 5th grade. I had one first-year teacher who worked very hard with instructional coaches and outperformed veteran teachers in her building. I never like to call out teachers, but she's sitting right there, and I was really proud of the work that she did. She did really an outstanding job. Again, I think that's a testament to the power of reaching out to an instructional coach and reaching out for help. She far exceeded what a first-year teacher should, so I'm really proud of you. Thought I'd throw that in there. Yeah, you're welcome. So the next thing that I want to talk about are the biggest barriers that I have for student performance. The first one is attendance. I mean, we talk about it, and Dr. Tomlinson likes to throw this in my face all the time because I argue with him about it, and now I have to tell him regularly that he was right. Our attendance is sitting right now, our 90% attendance, and what that means is the state expects for 90% of our kids to be here 90% of the time, and I know you've heard that before. Currently, our 90-90 rate is 75.48%. It's just unacceptable. So it's really hard to see the results of our instruction when we can't get students in a classroom. It's an obstacle that's really difficult to overcome. So that's something I think that you'll see that we are trying to we're really trying to put attendance in the front of the conversations that we're having with parents at parent-teacher conferences, so you may get some feedback from that. It's just vitally important for a kid to be here at school. The next thing on here is our staffing.
That's your question.
Yeah.
Do we think that has any backlash with COVID still?
Yes. So right now, I know that Lewis said that they have a lot of illness that went through them. Right now, it's at Cornerstone. I had a conversation with Brian Sloan today. Actually, he sent me a text that was FYI. I think he had 7 teachers out. He had, I think, half a dozen of them that were currently in the nurse's office when I called over there, and I think 30 kids out that were sick. So yeah, we are actually going through illnesses right now. I think the concern is it's just now the beginning of flu season, so this typically isn't the end of illness. So making sure that we can keep our facilities safe and sanitized, send kids home when they need to go home, and get them back when they need to be here. But yes, absolutely, that's a factor. So staffing is always a concern. Today, and this happens all the time, today I had 22 staff members that were out of the building. 7 of those were unfilled subs. So what that means is I have to find a replacement within a building, or building principals do. And if I have 3 classrooms and 2 of them have 25 kids and they split one classroom because there isn't a teacher in there, that's too many kids in one classroom in order for anyone to learn. So when I can't replace a sub for one classroom, pretty much no one in the grade level is getting the full experience. I will say that is a huge concern of me in how we are going to staff ourselves. I mean, and it's not just an education thing. You can drive around and see a help wanted sign in everybody's window. But just like you saw in your MSBA report, the salary is embarrassing compared to where we stand with other states nationally. It's just something that we are going to have to address, or we're going to continue to see staffing shortages. Classroom management is on there as well. So getting behaviors back in order after COVID has been a little bit challenging and a little bit difficult. Dr. Gross is actually bringing us with our PDC. She's working with PBIS to bring us kind of some structure with the discipline moving forward, so I'm looking forward to that. Again, I touched on this with legislation. It's not so much as an obstacle or a barrier, but more of they make you pivot on a dime. They'll send an email and you have to drop everything and pivot quickly and come up with something in a matter of weeks, it seems like, because it's something that they're needing. MSIP 6 is a perfect example. When we created our CSIP plan, it just wasn't in line with what was expected, so we pivoted, and I know that we've been working really hard on that with Cabinet, trying to get accredited with that. Letters training, again, was a pivot. The state of Missouri has said they want all of their teachers certified K-3. Grant money was offered, and I said, I'm all in. Let's do it immediately. So again, Dr. Tomlinson told me he was taking you guys to letters training, and it just means the world to me, Jill, that you and Troy could go to that. And I think it makes the teachers feel so much more supported to be behind academics. So thank you for attending that. Virtual learning is another obstacle it's ever changing. This year we had a really solid virtual learning handbook, and then they passed SB 681, and that law changed after the beginning of school had already started. So after we had them in place, we were following our own rules, and then we got a new rule in place. So just wanted to give you guys a heads up. Our virtual learning handbook is outdated compared to the law, but we are currently following the law as far as what we need to do. That's a perfect example of the pivots that we have to take and kind of drop everything and move forward. So again, you know me, I could sit up here and talk about academics all day and good teaching and all of this fun stuff, and I know you guys could too. You're so excited about it. So any questions for me, I'm happy to answer any of them.
Are we still doing attendance incentives?
Attendance incentives, yes. So each building kind of comes up with their own stuff, and like I said, each building is so unique in personality. They all do completely different things. At the high school, the kids like things, and like big things like TVs and iPods and things like that. That's proven to be effective for them. Little kids are a little bit different, but yes, we are funding some attendance incentives for sure. We're also doubling up on parent phone calls home. We've started an attendance review board that I'll share with you later, where if a kid misses so many days, the parent has to come to an attendance review board. That's been happening at the high school for a long time, where credits are on the line. And we've actually implemented that starting as early as kindergarten to say, you know, we want to know why your student has been out. And oftentimes they're very good reasons, and we take that into account. But we have to keep kids at school. It's super important. It's everything.
Sounds like we need more subs too. What is the minimum credit hours that someone would need to sub in the district?
We just changed it.
Just got changed.
Yeah, another pivot. They just changed. It used to be 30 hours. I believe is it 15 now?
It used to be 60.
It was 60.
Or it used to be 60 and now it's 30 then.
I know someone that needs a job, so that might be a good idea for them.
And it's not just subs. Even like last year for Dr. Tomlinson and I had a conversation about elementary teachers, and I think you said you typically have a pool of 30 to 50, and we had, I think, 6 to choose from at one time.
Just for elementary teacher, and 5 years ago, it wouldn't be out of the norm to have 300 people apply just for general openings. And, you know, this year we might have had 40. That's the drop we have in our staffing search.
Could we do another thing that we did like a year ago where we
Increase
not
what you
no
paid
that's
them,
not what
or
I'm saying.
what?
I'm
We've
talking about, like,
already
the
done that
search.
once this year.
Like where we had like them come in and
You're at fair.
yes.
Yes, we're going to look at all kinds of different opportunities. Right now, we just upped our pay recently. We're going to have to take a look at that again. It's expensive, though, you know, so we're going to have to take a look.
At what cost?
At what cost is the point? That's kind of why I sent you guys an email, too. We did a little around Halloween. We picked a couple days that we were concerned were going to be very low. We upped them those days to see if that worked out. That did help somewhat. But it just comes down to people are going to go where they can make money. If we're paying more than Liberty or Kearney, the subs are going to come to us. And if we're not, they're not.
It's interesting. I've been to some meetings with other districts and sat down with other curriculum directors, and they are literally like basing their calendars for the next year not on holidays but on dates that teachers typically call off sick. I know several districts the day before Halloween and the day after Halloween where they just called them off on the calendar because attendance was so poor. So again, it's a benefit that we give to our teachers, and you know, the wellness and well-being of our teachers is so important. But at the same time, we're here for students and to get them to learn. So whatever we have to do, we have to do it. Okay? Thank you, guys.
Thank you. But since you're already there, you may as well just stay.
Okay. I need my other piece of paper, though.
Next up is approval of technology grant and computer purchase. Dr. Miller.
Okay, so I think that it was probably July that Dr. Tomlinson brought a bid for Chromebooks for, there was grant money available, and we said yes please, and so we were awarded a grant and basically got about half of our middle school, they got Chromebooks, and about half of the high school. So what this is for, this will cover 650 new Chromebooks. It's 100% reimbursed for the Chromebooks that are covered with this. We had to do a survey with students, and anyone who did not have their own personal laptop, which you have to think about that. That's not mom's, that's not dad's, that's not a desktop, and it's not our iPad. But we had to basically survey every kid, and anyone who did not have their own personal laptop, the grant actually paid for them to get one, and that covered roughly 85% of our students. So it's $230,000 in basically of cost to get computers in the hands of our students. The reimbursed amount is $196,000, and the cost to us really is roughly, it's $34,000 to finish this up. So I would like to recommend that the board approve the recommendation as presented.
So moved.
First by Kaylin, second by Darren. Anybody have any questions? Comments? All right, all those in favor? And that passes 6-0. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Next up, approval of the 23 through 27 district communication plan. Dr. Bullimore.
Good evening. The district communication plan is our guide to telling the district's story and intentionally connecting with our stakeholders. If it pleases the board, I would like to introduce Ms. Paige Colgan and Ms. Chelsea Lane, who were two members of our district communications team, to present this plan to the board.
Get excited. Okay, like Dr. Bullimore said, I'm Paige Colgan, and this is my second year with the district teaching. I work at Cornerstone, 5th grade. I subbed for about 2 years, and I also grew up and went to school here too. So I've been around a little while.
I am Chelsea Lane. I have been in the district, I was trying to count, I think 9 years. But 4 years in the classroom, and then the past 5 years as a family advocate at the Early Childhood Center. Also graduated from Excelsior and have been bebopping around for a while. So we are very excited to talk to you guys about the district communication plan. So I have my clicker.
Okay, so the communication plan was designed to establish a comprehensive and integrative communication process for effective communication with all stakeholders, and we made this to align with our district goals and then also the CSIP plan.
So basically what that means is the communication plan is intended to streamline a lot of things, particularly helping the district achieve our strategic goals, building strong relationships through strong communication, providing focus and direction. We're hearing that come up in a lot of different areas. And serving as a coordinator response for our crisis and emergency plans, and then like Dr. Bullimore mentioned, like really honing in on telling our story, who we are, what we do, how we do it here in Excelsior Springs.
So the stakeholders, our team is made up of administrators, teachers, instructional coaches, parents, business representatives, and then school board members as well.
So the process of how we got here for our communication plan was all of the stakeholders met at central office for 3 planning meetings. We had a variety of staff from the district, board members, some community members joined us. We looked at the past previous communication plan, kind of pruned out some information we didn't feel like was as relevant, provided lots of input and voice from all the different sectors on what we felt like we needed from communication from the district. After we did that, we split into 2 teams, black team, gold team, and really looked at the goals, where we took a deeper look at those and the different strategies to support them, and we ended up with 4 goals to share with you.
So the first goal that we talked about was develop and maintain positive and collaborative relationships with all stakeholders to strengthen and support for our school district. And then we had 3 different strategies under there, and we really want to hone in on strategy 1B and 1C. Strategy 1B is going to just be able to continue for us to build and maintain relationships with business partners. And then 1C, that's going to come into play whenever we have big issues like a bond or a levy, and making sure that our communications team is able to really communicate the importance of what that is about, and like we've mentioned all night, how important it is. I think as an employee of Cornerstone and being able to work there, going into a brand new school felt amazing for the teachers, the staff, the kids, the community, and I would love to be able to see that happen for Lewis too. And then the second goal, my group also did that one, and this is just to be able to utilize a variety of media to maximize awareness and support of the district goals. This is really focusing on telling our stories through media and also newsletters.
Turn up the dial on it, I think is what he said. So we're really turning that up. Goal 3, establish an effective employee communication plan to improve internal communication and employee engagement. So one of the strategies we talked about that was for really providing some intentional training for our new staff that come into the district and also our established staff that have been here on like how we communicate. What are we going to utilize? How are we going to push stuff out? What do we want that to look like? Where can they access branding, images, media kits, things like that. And goal 4, achieving coordinated communications both internally and externally regarding safety issues and crisis management. I think this is something our district does really well and can always continue to improve, and we thought a big way to focus on that is maintaining those relationships with emergency personnel in the district. One of the ways we discussed doing that was just kind of the open door policy and inviting people to come in, to see our faces, to check in if they have new staff to come in and tour the facilities, be comfortable in those environments. So from our 4 goals, we kind of focused on some key takeaways that we could start right away and that we have already begun implementing this school year. And so these are what those look like.
So I'd say like the top 3 were limiting communication tools down in the buildings. We kind of realized as we all came together, elementary, middle, and high school, we all have several different tools that we communicate with. So maybe making it a little easier on the parents with how we communicate and get that information out there is going to be something we want to focus on. And then something that Dr. Bullimore did this year that I've really loved is celebrating our Tigers. So every MacBook has the little QR code, and staff members are able to hone down on it, send in pictures, and then like we just get to tell what amazing things we're doing in our classroom. And I think that's been really nice to be able to see what other buildings are doing, not just elementary, but high school, middle school, and even the Career Center too. ECC as well.
Thank you. We're
Can't
not
forget about the
blurry
littles.
photos, though.
Yeah.
Not blurry photos. So clear pictures for the people.
And then the last one is the district employee newsletter, which I've really enjoyed getting. This just keeps all of us informed of what's happening around here.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time and attention with the communications plan. Dr. Bullimore would love to take any questions that you have.
Thank you, ladies.
Nice.
Does anyone have any questions over the communications plan?
No, good job. Good job.
We want to thank everyone that was a part of the district communication team. It's a weird time on a Wednesday in an afternoon and everybody's lunch is kicking in and they need a nap, but they did a great job trudging through, so we appreciate it. If there's no questions, I recommend that the board approve the communication plan as presented.
Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
First by Darren, second by Kenny. Any questions, comments for the ladies or for him? Hearing none, all those in favor? That passes 6-0. Thank you guys, appreciate it. Next up, Student Services, Dr. Gross.
Okay, thank you. Let's start with, okay. I'm excited to be able to present some of the things that have been going on first quarter and just kind of give a little wrap up of some of the exciting things that took place in student services. This is just a few highlights that I wanted to be able to share with you. So just starting there at the top, the kind of yellow box there, gold box, panorama survey results. That number you see, 82.9% response rate, we're pretty excited about that. This is funded by our Children's Fund. You guys probably remember that this is the surveying tool that we use for students and now also for teachers and staff. And the 82.9% is moving us toward our goal of 85% as a part of that Children's Fund grant. And that may not sound great, and it might seem like, we fell short of our goal. However, we started out getting about a 60% survey response rate, so we're pretty excited about that 82.9. So we're moving along, we're getting close there. What we've been surveying the students on is self-efficacy and grit. And just to put that in perspective a little bit, self-efficacy is really about, what students believe that they can do, what they think they can achieve.
Last month I shared with you in consent agenda the possibility project that we're doing at the high school, which is really all centered around self-efficacy and kids believing that they can achieve their dreams. And when we surveyed students there was really that underlying current that they're not sure that they can do what they aspire to do. And so being able to survey our kids and then use those panorama tools such as the playbook to be able to support them in self-efficacy is really a great step to help them to be able to achieve what they want to in life. And grit is, Dr. Miller kind of talked about this a little bit about doing hard things. And grit is really just believing that you can do the hard things. You can push through and do what you need to do to meet those self-efficacy goals. So we're very excited about what we've got going on so far with Panorama. That survey was at the end of September, and at the end of November we will have our teacher and staff survey. And you probably remember I brought you results of that last year, and that's really what was the vehicle for our empathy school and our whole educator collective that we did with all of the staff at the beginning of the year. So we're excited to see what those results look like this time, and I'll be excited to share those with you as well. PBIS, which as you know is Positive Behavior Intervention Support. Going back to what Dr. Miller said about an academic barrier being classroom management, that is something that we have definitely seen an uptick in after COVID. Pre-COVID, we were really rock stars in PBIS. I mean, we had some buildings that were getting gold status in PBIS, earning ribbons for PBIS, and we want to get back to our roots with that because we really flourished with our classroom management when we had these things implemented. So what we are doing so far is we have created a district leadership team. The team began meeting, we're meeting monthly. Our first meeting was the end of August. And what we're working on now, you see the leadership, coaching, and training there. What we've been doing is determining, okay, what should be our primary tenets. There's quite a few features that we could focus on, but we really want to focus on just a few to get strong in what we need to do to be able to support our teachers with behavior in the classroom. So the leadership piece is working on action planning. It's a 3 to 5 year action plan with PBIS. The coaching is really thinking about how we can develop a written process to be able to support our teachers in the moment. And then the training is being able to train our staff each year and make sure they're equipped, they have that toolkit, they have what they need to be able to go into the classroom and really support their kids and have that good, strong classroom management foundation, so that's not such an academic barrier. Now looking at the bright yellow section there, we're super excited about this. Our IEP students, one of the primary obligations for our students that graduate high school is really helping them move into the workforce and what that might look like for them, whether that is college or career. That 80.4% that you see there, we're super excited about. We have 80.4% of our transition IEP students participating in pre-employment services from the University of Missouri. And you might remember back in the spring, I brought to you a stipend for a transition coordinator. And we are very excited about Austin Teagarden, who's one of our resource teachers at the high school. He is very passionate about this. And that 80.4, we're really rocking because the next highest in the area is a school that we regularly compete with, to not be named. They're at 23%, and the next highest is at 14%. So he's doing all kinds of things to be able to support our IEP students, and a couple of them, on Wednesday, he is going to be engaging those students in a job shadowing process here in town with quite a few businesses. And then in the spring, he does have a transition fair that's planned. He's got 31 service providers that he's working with. And those are really geared towards IEP students, and he's also brought in 504 students to be able to support them as well. And it's open to all students, but of course our primary obligation is making sure that students have access to the same sort of careers and workforce that all of our students do, just the same as their non-disabled peers. So I'm very proud of Austin and all the work that he's doing. And then the last thing I want to share with you is that chart with all the numbers in there. And don't get too lost in that. But you probably remember back in 2018, I had the dreaded job of coming and telling you that our middle school and high school IEP subgroup students were not meeting the mark in their test scores with ELA and math. Not only were they not meeting the mark, they actually were in the bottom 5%. And so that puts us in targeted status. And we have 3 years to get out of targeted status, and if we don't get out of targeted status, then we go into comprehensive, and nobody wants to be in comprehensive. We'll just leave it at that. So originally when I brought you this chart, we needed, in 2019, you see that column there, and the years were 19, 20, and 21, obviously. But 20 and 21 just, went out the window with COVID. And so this started back up. We had to pick up right where we left off with our scores in 2022. So really all you need to see is what we needed in 2022. You can see that white column there. And then what we received in 2022. And we blew it out of the water. We did awesome, and we are out of targeted status with our IEP subgroup students in both ELA and math. And I'm just so proud of our teachers, our principals, and also our process coordinator at the high school and middle school, Carrie Kirkendall, because she really led the charge along with our principals to create some co-teaching opportunities, some collaborative efforts between SPED teachers and reg ed teachers so that those IEP students would have access to that curriculum. So very proud of all of them.
Those are huge increases.
Very
nice.
lovely increase.
Awesome.
Yes,
That's awesome.
thank you. Yes.
Anybody have any questions for Dr. Gross? Great work.
Yeah.
All right. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
First by Kayla. Second by Darren. All those in favor? And that passes 6-0. Have a good evening.
Are they going to do a Christmas set?
Hey, we got one coming up. Do you need it? No, I think we're past it.
They never usually do. Well, I think they should. I feel like that went over very well.
Heather,
Did you like it?
surprised.
Kind of stressful. It probably was. Yeah. You look good. What part did you play?
But it's gonna take time.
Yeah, it's going to take time.
Tuesday. I still think of him as
Is
a
that the
kid.
original?
Yeah,
That's
but-
traded now what they offer is traded on those because the market's changed.
It's like in the graveyard part.
Okay, you guys ready? Call the meeting to order. Entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
First by Kaylin. Second by Kenny. Or was it Darren?
Darren.
Darren, sorry.
That's who I had first. Okay.
Okay. All those in favor? And that passes 6-0. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to enter into closed session.